You walked into the garage or the basement and found water around the bottom of your water heater. It might be a small puddle that keeps coming back no matter how many times you wipe it up, or a steady drip, or a base wet all the way around. If that is what is going on, you are in exactly the right place. Here is the good news up front. A leaking water heater is sometimes a $10 part you can swap yourself, and sometimes it is a sign the tank is finished and needs replacing. The whole game is figuring out which one you are looking at. By the end, you will know where the water is actually coming from, what each kind of leak means, what you can fix yourself, and what it costs. I have dug through manufacturer guides and plumber troubleshooting steps so I can walk you through this in plain language while you are standing there staring at the puddle. But before we even call it a leak, let me save some of you a panic and a service call. If your water heater is brand new, or it just got refilled after being drained, or it sits in a humid garage, that water on the floor might not be a leak at all. It might be condensation. The tank is full of cold water, and in a warm or damp room, moisture in the air beads up on the cold metal and drips onto the floor, exactly like a cold glass of iced tea sweats on a summer day. The way you tell the difference is simple. Condensation is temporary and gets better as the tank heats up, while a real leak is persistent and only gets worse. So wipe everything bone dry, then check it over the next several hours. If no new water shows up once the tank is good and hot, you are just dealing with sweat and you can relax. If water keeps coming back, then yes, you have a leak and we keep going. Now, if water is actively running out and spreading, do two things first. Shut off the cold water supply at the valve on top of the heater by turning it clockwise. Then kill the power at the breaker for an electric unit, or turn the gas control knob to off for a gas unit. That keeps it safe while you figure out the source. And that source is the next thing to nail down, because it decides everything else. Here is the trap most people fall into. Water on the floor does not automatically mean the tank cracked. Water always travels downhill, so a slow drip from a connection up top can run invisibly down the side of the tank and pool at the bottom, looking exactly like a bottom leak. You have to trace it up to the highest wet spot. With the unit wiped completely dry, lay a paper towel at the top fittings, another at the valve on the side, another at the drain valve down low, and watch through a heating cycle or two. Whichever paper gets wet first points you at the source. There are really only a handful of usual suspects, so let me walk through them from the cheapest to the worst. Start at the top of the tank, where your water connections are, the cold water coming in, and the hot water going out. Years of the tank heating up and cooling down can work those fittings loose, or a union can start a slow drip. This is the best case scenario. Usually you can snug the connection back up with a wrench, firmly but not gorilla tight, since you can crack a fitting by overdoing it. A corroded flex connector up there just gets swapped for a new one. Parts run $15 to $30 and you are done in under an hour. Now look at the drain valve down at the bottom, the spigot you hook a hose to when you flush the tank. It is a common leak point, especially on older units. The little rubber washer inside wears out, or sediment gets lodged in it and holds it open, or it simply was not closed all the way after the last flush. First try gently closing it tighter. If it still weeps from the spout, open it for a second to flush out any trapped debris, then close it again. If it still drips after that, the valve needs replacing. The part is cheap, $10 to $30, and a lot of people upgrade the flimsy plastic stock valve to a solid brass one while they are in there. You do have to drain the tank to swap it, so it is an hour or two of work, but it is very doable. Next is the valve on the side of the tank with a pipe running down toward the floor. That is the temperature and pressure relief valve, and this one matters for your safety, so pay close attention here. Its whole job is to release water if the pressure inside the tank climbs over about 150 pounds or the temperature climbs over about 210 degrees. So if it is dripping, it is either doing its job because something is wrong or the valve itself has failed. A few things push it open. Your thermostat might be set too high, so set it to 120 degrees, which is the safest and most efficient spot anyway. Your home water pressure might be too high, since it should sit between 40 and 80 pounds, what the gauge calls PSI, and you can check it with a cheap gauge that screws onto a hose bib. If it reads over 80, you need a pressure reducing valve installed at the main, which is a plumber job. On a closed plumbing system, the water expands as it heats with nowhere to go, and the fix is a small expansion tank added to the line. And if the valve itself is simply worn out, you replace it, which is a cheap part that screws right in. Here is the one thing you must never do. Do not cap that valve, plug it, or screw a cap onto its discharge pipe to stop the dripping. That valve is the only thing standing between a pressurized tank of superheated water and an actual explosion. If it will not stop dripping, you fix the cause behind it or you replace the valve. Silencing it is never an option. Now for the two causes that mean your tank is on borrowed time. The first is sediment. Minerals from hard water settle at the bottom of the tank and bake into a crust that makes the burner run hotter against the steel, which stresses it and eventually cracks it. The second is the anode rod, a sacrificial metal rod inside the tank that is designed to rust away so the tank itself does not. Once that rod is used up, usually after 3 to 5 years, the tank steel starts to corrode from the inside out. Flushing the tank every year and swapping the anode rod before it is gone are how you prevent both. But here is the hard truth. If the leak is coming from the body of the tank itself, the welded seam or the steel shell, the tank has rusted through and there is no fix for that. No sealant or weld holds against tank pressure for long, so the only safe answer is a new water heater. This is most common on units past 8 to 12 years old, and rusty water or a puddle that keeps returning from the base are the dead giveaways. So is a leaking water heater dangerous? Most of the time, the real danger is the water, not an explosion. A slow leak you ignore will quietly rot the subfloor, warp drywall, and feed mold, which is why even a small drip is worth handling now. The serious risk, a tank rupturing from overpressure, is rare, and it is exactly what that relief valve exists to prevent. Let me lay out the repair versus replace decision simply. A leak at the top connections, the drain valve or the relief valve, is almost always a repair, and often a cheap one. If your unit is under about 8 years old and the fix costs less than half the price of a new heater, repair it. But if the tank shell itself is leaking or the unit is past 8 to 10 years old with any tank leak, it is time to replace. Past that age, repairs just delay a replacement you will end up making anyway. Here is the money picture. Tightening a fitting or valve costs you nothing if you do it yourself, or a service call minimum of $50 to $200 if a plumber comes out. A new drain valve or relief valve is a $10 to $40 part. An expansion tank runs $40 to $60 plus install. A general leak repair from a pro runs anywhere from $100 to $1,000, with the average landing around $600. But if the tank is shot and you need a full replacement, most people pay between $1,200 and $3,500 installed in 2026. One more safety word before we wrap. That leaking water can be 140 degrees or hotter, so do not grab it barehanded. Do not let an electric unit keep running if the tank might run low, because the heating element burns out fast when it is not covered by water. And if you ever smell gas near the unit, leave the house and call your utility from outside. So here is everything in one breath. First, rule out plain condensation. Then find where the water is coming from by drying everything and watching which spot gets wet. A leak at the top fittings, the drain valve or the relief valve, is usually a cheap fix. A leak from the tank body itself means the tank is done, especially if it is old. Never cap the relief valve. Set your thermostat to 120 degrees and flush the tank once a year. I have left links to a brass drain valve, a replacement relief valve, an expansion tank, and a water pressure gauge down in the description, so you can grab whatever your situation calls for. You can handle this. Most of the time, the puddle under your water heater is one worn part away from being fixed, and now you know exactly which part to look at.